Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another exciting exclusive right here on the She Is Women in Conversation series right here on Miss Hennessy TV. I am Maxine Johns. I am your host. This is my platform, and I'm very excited to finally get to speak to this brilliant young woman. We were just chatting before we kind of went live, and just from the last time that we actually connected and spoke was obviously before COVID kind of came and changed our whole world. She was intriguing to me back then, and she's even more intriguing to me now. But it's just such an honor to have her here on the platform for her to share what she's doing in the world of fashion and creativity and art. She's known as a multidisciplinary artist. She's a creative, she's a fashion-forward designer. Her name is Ginan Tabbouch, but people call her G, and we'd love to welcome her to the show. Welcome, beautiful lady. How are you?
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me, Maxine.
Oh, you are so welcome.
I'm doing really well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You're so welcome. It's just like I said before, I've really enjoyed watching women like yourself change the scope of the way things are always viewed isn't always the way it really is, right? Especially in a creative sense. And you are at the forefront of so much creative change in such a creative time, and it's such a complex time that we're living in. For you to be able to create is an actual, it's an art form, but it's also a real privilege at this time to be a creative. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. And especially like growing up in the 90s in Western Sydney, I saw a lot of things that maybe the typical teen didn't see. And I really feel like that fuels me to be able to bring that now with my creations. And it really is the drive with everything that I do. And like you said, it's such a privilege for me to use my creativity and my talent to kind of put our stories on the platform and share it with everyone.
Absolutely. And you know what, again, like I said, we met through another incredible woman, Vivian Abloh, who I had on the show a few weeks ago. She's such a formidable woman, and just everything that she's done to bring the worlds of hip hop and fashion and art and conversation and social, youth advocacy, everything together on that platform of hers with 4E. I got to meet you at one of the 4E conferences a couple of years ago out of Bankstown, and we just obviously hit it off and mutual respect for each other. But I think you sort of loosely introduced yourself and said, you're in fashion and whatever. No, she's not just in fashion, ladies and gentlemen. She's like changing the game, okay? The last year I've seen you just transform what we would sort of know as runway fashion. It's not couture, it's not high end, it's not bougie, it's woke pieces of art, if I could even say that. Am I on the right path here? Because that's how it feels when I look at your work.
Yeah, it makes me so happy that you actually see it the way I think I see it. So I just love that so much. Thank you. And it is exactly that. Like, I think it's the new fashion. It's the new world where I don't want to be constricted or put in a box where fashion tells you the rules, because there is rules with every industry. But I feel like as an upcoming designer, or actually established kind of now, we need to change the game. I think we need to tell stories in a different way. We need to raise voices. We need to tell people it's okay to unmute your voice. It's okay not to conform into trends and feel like you have to do what everyone else is doing. And I feel like that's what I'm doing with fashion. And I do it in a way where I've incorporated film, I've incorporated music, I've incorporated artists. I love reaching out to my local artists that are kind of working up with me and be like, do you want to jump on a collab? Let's tell the world how it is. So like the fact that other people are seeing woke fashion, like it's woke without me having to tell everyone it's woke.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. Your work is actually speaking for itself, because there's nothing, there's nothing more redundant, I think, than if you're an artist or you're a musician or even a writer and you have to go on a platform and kind of sell what it is you're trying. I mean, not like you want to sell, but as in like monetary sell, but like to sell the idea. It's art is what is in the eye of the beholder. So it's whatever the person that's viewing it. So your work is unapologetic, and it is in your face, and it's raw. And if you don't like it, well, don't look. But you've got a lot of people looking, and you have a lot of interest and a lot of traction on your pages. And not only that, but the images you post of yourself, I mean, like stunningly beautiful. Like seriously, there are times when I just go, I'm sorry, but there's no one can be this beautiful. I don't even know what's going on here. But clearly, as you can see, ladies and gentlemen, she is. So I don't know if you appreciate, but I put a bit of a red lip on for you tonight, because I thought, it's after 9. You know, I'm in my mom mode. I'm about to do some study. And I'm put a red lip on because I'm speaking to Ginan tonight. So got to bring it. If people know you and they follow you, you'll see what I mean. You need to follow the page. You're stunning. The way you capture your beauty is just, it's flawless. So your pieces reflect that as well. That's how I describe you. I'd love to know how you would describe yourself.
Wow, where am I gonna go from that? Honestly, like I would describe myself as someone that has a purpose and a fight. Like, and like growing up, like I always go back to that moment, because I didn't have a role model telling me you can do it, you know, you've got this, and you're beautiful and you're powerful. And so now I bring that into my work. I bring power, I bring strength, and I'm like, whoever comes across, whether it's a curated image or my designs, I want that to be a transmission. Feel that power, feel that strength, feel that, like I like to work with one of my uni teachers. He said, your work is the beautiful in the ugly. So like I try to work with that duality, and I love that. So yeah, I feel like it's just raw. Honestly, it's just raw from my heart, and I hope it just translates that way.
Oh, I think you're amazing. Like I said, I was intrigued by you then, and even more so now that I've come to know a little bit more about your work. And there isn't a post that you don't put up where I'm not liking it. Whether it makes sense to me or not, I take the time to try to peel back what it is that you're trying to convey. And it's always, like I say with a lot of things that I align myself with, it's necessary realness. So, you know, whilst a lot of people, they take fashion and art as a very personal thing. And a lot of people are into, you know, obviously the wearable high fashion. You know, there's certain items that I don't even go into some stores, because I'm like, I'm not going anywhere to wear a $5,000 t-shirt. Like, that's not my life, right? But it's cool if you can. More power to you. The things again that you create, it's man, it's next level. And what I think is amazing about it is not only are you a local artist, so you're a local Sydney-based artist. You represent, you know, to the nth degree for your community, for your culture, which I think is absolutely brilliant, which I'd love to talk about a little bit more, and the influence there. But you're also you're very proud to be Australian-based too, which is brilliant. And I think that there's a lot of weight that can be held within that realm, especially being in the woke fashion kind of world. So mentioning all three of those, I want to touch a little bit on your culture if I can, and just have you explain a little bit about your background, how that's influenced your creativity, and then also if it's had a major influence on obviously the fashion world as well.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you a little story. My dad's a sailor, and he's an Arab Brazilian. So his family's from Brazil, and he was sailing, and one of his stops was in Damascus in Syria, and that's where my mom was from. So that's my background, got like a mix of Latin and Middle East, and they kind of got married and then they came down to Australia. And I was born and raised in Bankstown, and growing up, it was funny because like I'm not any of those specific cultures, but I'm this beautiful mix. And like, you know, sometimes you see me very Latin, sometimes I'm very Arab, sometimes I'm very Aussie. Yeah. And I bring that in everything that I do. And it's this, I don't know, I say this a lot in my posts, you either get it or you don't. Like you either can see that it's like this new gen coming up where they're everywhere and they express themselves really, it's like this new human, like, yes. It's like you can't identify them. Yes. And I use that a lot in my designs, like the silhouettes, the way they're shaped, very Middle Eastern, the beading work, some of my embroidery, that could be from the Brazilian side, the colors. I like to use a lot of primary colors. That's the flags. If you look at the flags, that's all in there.
Wow.
And yeah, and a lot of my fabrics are sourced from the markets in Syria. I went there twice to source fabric. So every item that I create is so intricately really thought out. And why am I putting a button here? Why is this zipper here? And there's meaning behind everything. And that's what kind of also triggers me when I see people that just slap logos on t-shirts. I'm like, that's not how it's supposed to be done. Yeah. Like fashion is the way I express myself, and it's the way how people express themselves. Yeah. So yeah, if you see a piece, you can definitely see my influence, my culture, Western Sydney, definitely with the graffiti on my clothes. Yeah, it's just this melting pot where, yeah.
That's amazing how you've broken that down, because again, if you're, and I'm not I've always loved fashion. I've always been interested in fashion and what makes a creative sort of tick in that world. And just hearing you explain how you've meshed your incredibly beautiful melting pot of nationality and culture into the pieces that you create. That takes a lot of time, and that's a huge energy sort of pool that you're drawing from, right? So I know you mentioned, you know, people just slapping logos on t-shirts and things like that, and I guess that fast fashion sort of vibe. But to work in the world that you're in, there's a piece of your soul that goes into each piece, and you're telling a story. So what headspace are you in when you sort of sit in front of your piece of material and you get ready? Like, do you have a process, or is it just what you feel and you go with it?
I have like two processes. Sometimes it's just honestly like a download. Like that's the only way I can explain it. It's like an idea that comes, and it's usually triggered from an experience. Like everything I design, there's a story, and that story is usually what am I going through right now. Like for example, one of my collections was around the times where the bushfires were happening in Australia, and I really thought as a creative I have to say something. So it was all inspired by slow fashion, and slow fashion is kind of like taking a step back and looking how fashion is contributing as it's the third biggest waste contributor to Earth, and that kind of triggers like pollution and you know, one of the effects of that is bushfires. And me looking at it, I was like, I'm going to create a whole collection out of scraps. I got my old collection fabrics. I literally like fabric this size that I pinned together and I hand stitched. One jeans took me probably 3 weeks to do. Wow. And it's just old fabrics that I stitched together. And I wanted to show other people and set an example that you can use things around you and upcycle and use your old jeans instead of throwing that out into the landfills. Get it, and I'll show you how to make these cool new designs. So yeah, I'm influenced by everything that goes around me. Yeah. And I really now I'm on this journey where I'm really mindful of what I consume, not just mentally, also in my body.
Yeah.
I'm mindful that I'm using low tox products, because I know that it's all a ripple effect. And if I'm putting stuff on my body and in my body that doesn't serve me, that's going to affect my creativity 100%.
Absolutely.
So like this slow kind of transition from just being so conscious, and I really hone on the message that it's cool to be conscious. Like let's make this a trend.
Absolutely. Oh, I love how you've just broken that down. It's deliberate sort of designing. You're designing with, you know, there's a deliberate intent for your designs. It's not just to be another designer or to, you know, have a label. And I love that, because that is the sort of current status quo that we're living in right now. You know, I know lockdown had a lot affected us in a great many ways. So many of us as creatives were affected, whether it was monetarily or just losing jobs, or, you know, even just the distance from family. But for us here in Sydney, it had a really interesting effect when it came to the divisiveness that what we were seeing. And I know you were quite an advocate for it on your page. I would obviously, you know, see everything you posted, and you know, unless you were living in the areas of the LGAs where you were feeling that real kind of sort of steeped upon, you know, police presence and over exaggerated sort of rules and regulations, the rest of Sydney seemed to be like on the outside looking in. And if you weren't affected by it, then I'd say you're missing something there, because a lot of us were affected by it. Whether you were living in the LGA that was affected, or you were on the outside and you knew people that were in it. We all live in Sydney, yet there was this sort of moat, and then this sort of like the Western Sydney, and then the rest of us were on the outside, and we're all affected. COVID doesn't sort of segregate, so we're told. So it was a really interesting time to watch, and with most of the creatives representing Western Sydney, right? We had our hip hop community that was affected by that. We had our artistic community that a lot of the great sort of, you know, artists live in the inner west. In you know, south of Sydney, Western Sydney. So the art that comes out of that is going to be affected by that. What was it like for you living during that time? Because you mentioned you obviously live in that area still.
Yeah, I am in the Bankstown area.
Yeah, what was that like for you? Because it was horrendous to watch it and just go, we're all living in the same city, so what's up?
Honestly, it was terrifying. Even till now, we're still feeling it. The thing is, I was afraid to leave my home, to be completely honest, and the stuff that I was seeing. And like you said, the music industry is run by Western Sydney talent. So I saw everyone, they love it when they're out and they have a concert and they're supporting. But when it comes to like, hello, we are struggling, there was silence, or I think, in my opinion, denial. I think people couldn't relate. It was like they were watching an alternative universe, and I really believe that that's what happened. We were living in a dystopic world, and it was crazy. So then I realized, okay, I can't keep feeding that energy. So I went inside. I did rituals, I did like meditations, I journaled, like spoke to coaches, spoke to therapists, because like this is the only way I knew how to cope. I was talking about it, but honestly, I got a lot of backlash, and on the other side, I got a lot of silence. I got a lot of people watching and a lot of people not saying anything. So that was like, well, that's not serving me anymore, because it became unhealthy. So I went in. I was like, okay, pour this all out in your creation, pour this out in what you want to talk about and how you want to create change. But has anything really been solved or anything? No. It really is still ongoing.
And you know, I asked that with the, not that I needed to know any more than what I already knew, because obviously, like I said, you know, living on the outskirts of those sort of local government areas, I, you know, work, and I still work in what was one of the hardest hit, you know, sort of like the Fairfield, Liverpool area. And you know, the school that I serve at was in that area, and I was having to travel to that school until I wasn't allowed in because I wasn't from that LGA, and it was deemed too risky for me to work and then come back home to mine, and I was just like, never did I ever think in my wildest dreams living in Sydney would I have to differentiate the local government area that I live in, because I live in Sydney. I live in the state of New South Wales in Sydney, and there's just different suburbs that sort of that connect or disconnect us. But this was a major disconnection. And again, like I said, if you didn't feel that, or if you didn't register or even acknowledge it, then it's sort of tone deaf to the whole bigger picture, right? There's a lot of tone deaf people out there. And I think that particular period in time really highlighted it. Whether it was selective tone deafness or it was deliberate, however you choose to have seen it, you know, we're supposed to all have gone through it together, but a lot of people it looked like they got out unscathed. And there was a huge sort of unfairness that was around that. And I think it takes more than just oh well, you know, lockdown's lifted now, let's all get back to it. I think it's left a bit of a scar, and we'd be stupid to say it hasn't, right?
I think there's going to be a long period of time of kind of rehab, to be honest. All my jobs as a fashion creative was outside of my LGA, so I lost a lot of my income. A lot of my parents lost their jobs and we just couldn't travel outside our area, and it just saddens me to like, and no one really cares. Like, like,
and now let's just get on with it. Yeah, it's really, it's such a, it wasn't just an like, you know, an economical thing, because yes, we, you know, a lot of us being a DJ lost no jobs. There was nothing going on. Lots of people, that's all that they did. You know, there was no backup for that. You know, you just had to fingers crossed and hope things got better. You know, entertainment industry, the musicians couldn't play gigs. You just have to hope and pray that things come back together again. But yeah, with coming back together and trying to make the economy stronger, you got to have a you know, community that feels supported and that feel accepted. And I just don't know how the communities that were really, really pushed hard upon why are expected to just bounce back like that. I think that would be inhumane. And I think it's, yeah, it's very utopian to think anything else. So trust me, there were a lot of people that were just horrified, spoke out about it. It was not right. And that wasn't the world that I sort of thought that we were living in, but the world kind of surprises us. So hasn't it surprised us in the last few years?
Yeah. I mean, I thought I'm like, oh, growing up, I experienced a lot of that, but I'm like, we were actually moving towards this world where everyone's understanding, you know, the Black Lives Matter movement. So I was like, people are starting to, I don't know, like fight back. And then all of a sudden, it was like I was transported back to my childhood wound of like being discriminated and racism. And I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like this is like, my mind couldn't comprehend at times really what was going on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said it with that honesty, because it really is that serious. This will leave, I mean, this has changed the way we interact with each other forever, right? They say that, I think, you know, I don't know if it's every 100 years or so, there's like a huge sort of, you know, not pandemic as such, but I read somewhere that I think that maybe I've read it wrong, but you know, every 100 years there's this huge sort of, you know, not like a disease. Maybe I will just use the word pandemic that comes and sort of sweeps through, you know, the globe. Well, you look at 100 years ago, it was the Spanish flu, and it was all of those sorts of things. And you're looking at pictures of, you know, vintage pictures of people wearing masks, and here we are. And then, but you know, to me, I try not to delve down that rabbit hole, because being a writer and a researcher, I'm up late at night going, why is this happening? And what's going on? Like, but you know, you do your own research, you do all those things. But I think just for us as people right now, it's some very fractured world, if I can say that. Yeah, very sort of fractured. I don't know, that sort of togetherness feeling that we thought was there. I just don't feel it, and I think it's going to take some time to be able to call back to that. But how do you, when you've got signs that are saying stand 1.5 meters apart, when you're constantly covered, when you think you can come back up for air and then you get another variant, and how do you deal? And so we're trying to deal with the great unknown, but it's changing us as a people. That's my observation. I don't know what yours is as a creative. What do you think about all of that?
I think, see, what I've seen, there's two things. Either people will just keep doing what they're doing and they think that nothing is happening and they'll keep creating the same way, or you're going to be looking outside the box and be like, okay, as a creative, I'm going to change the way I create. I'm going to create new fashion. I'm going to create new music, and I'm going to align to talk about it, but talk about it in a way where people comprehend. Because when people create music, they create fashion, people get that. But if you have messages underlying your creations, that's going to create little minor shifts, especially with the youth coming out. Youth love to be watching films. They love music. They love what's trending. I think the people that create the trends or creating, they need to be talking about these things. And I think that's how we can slowly create change and getting people to think outside this. It's going to be like therapeutic almost, but doing it in that way. It's like, I really think that creation should be healing at this moment in time. I think it's responsibilities of the creators, because they're the ones who really have a lot of influence. Do not undermine the influence that they have. And I think that's the way. And another thing that I loved about COVID, I know there's a positive, everyone jumped online. Yeah, like even having this conversation with you, maybe if COVID didn't happen, we'd never have this conversation before. That's a possibility. Like, you'd be too busy, I'd be too busy. But these Zooms meetings and these people jumping on Zooms, even though it's not person to person, you are still able to have really meaningful and strong conversations. And a lot of those conversations were healing for me. And it just made me listen, because I actually had the time and space to listen. And before I was like, I got too much. I'm sorry, I'm busy.
Absolutely. And I definitely echo that. I mean, for me, my YouTube channel was born through lockdown, because I needed another outlet. I needed to reconnect with my community that I was used to connecting with, you know, on air, on radio, but with rampancy of, you know, COVID sort of spreading, we weren't able to go into, you know, radio station, or, you know, you could go in one weekend and then the next weekend you couldn't because somebody was ill, and it was too many ups and downs. And I thrive on consistency and building up that, obviously building up my own brand, but going back to my roots as being somebody who enjoys having conversations that matter, and my interviewing of, you know, just incredible creative. So yeah, absolutely, I echo what you said. COVID and lockdown, especially this particular lockdown, really gave me a deeper sense and appreciation of myself and who I am, what my purpose is, redefining that purpose, and being okay to just be in the space that I was in. I was very, very blessed to be able to work from home for that period, homeschooled my kids, and just like yourself, found peace in going within. Meditation, taking care of my body, starting to work out again, watching what I was eating, all of those things that you always say, yes, I'm going to do, and you put on the back burner. So I do agree with you. The best thing about COVID, I think, was if you were in a position to be comfortable in lockdowns, very grateful and very blessed, because I know a lot of people weren't, and I was, in prayer a lot for them, and just hoping that, something gave and that the unfairness would lift. But when we look at ourselves, it's how do we create change as creatives? And I think this is definitely how we do it.
I definitely agree. And honestly, I think my next collection is going to be even that much better, because I have so much to tap into and just be loud and be proud and just don't care.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think, yeah, it definitely fuels me up. Like, I'm ready.
Absolutely. And I can't wait. And that leads me to my next question then. So with the collections that you've done beforehand, right? So every collection that you do, is there a runway show that you curate to showcase that? Or is it just sometimes just a selection of pieces that you do online? What's the perfect way to describe your collection from designing to showcasing?
I definitely, with every collection, there is a experience that I create. So in that experience, I usually launch, not only can you see stuff, you can hear stuff, whether it's a track that I create, or there's obviously the clothes that have a story to tell. Some collections I drop with a fashion film, and that is kind of talking about the topic that I'm gonna be dropping. Lately I've been doing scents, natural perfumes, and these perfumes tell a story. Last year I dropped the hood essence, and it's all scents tobacco from the shisha lounges. I grew up in Bankstown. You've got the vanilla for the baklava sweets my mum uses, and Damascene rose for the streets of Damascus that my mum grew up in. I created this scent and I called it the hood essence, because essentially that's what GTAB is. And so now I love to do a kind of a multimedia experience and also multi-sensory. So you don't just look at my stuff, you feel it really, you smell it, you hear it, you see it. And I think the way I do every collection, it's an experience. And and every collection did have a runway, which was, I'm so fortunate for that. But yeah, people could go in and just smell, like I would spray the perfume and they could smell that and really understand this kind of like this story and really immerse themselves and get them excited and motivated.
Well, if ever you're looking for a curator or a person to narrate your runway stories, I'll put my hand up, because I'll be all over it, girlfriend. I'll be all over that. I'll immerse myself into everything. I just think what you're doing is fabulous. I love everything about it. And I just, I'm just so intrigued by, like I said, your journey. I'd love to know who your influences are, like who inspires you, as in, like, do you have any sort of designers or artists that you look up to that inspire you, or is it more sort of self, family, environment?
I don't like looking at other designers and what they do, because I think that I don't want to end up copying them. That's really my honest answer. And I like to use my experiences. So a lot of my designs got nothing to do with the trends. Like the trends here, and I'm like up there doing my own little thing. But rap has always been a biggest influence on me growing up. Spoken word, poetry, lyrics. I mean, that's what GTAB, that's how I launched GTAB. It was inspired by the rap revolution in 1970. People were standing up and they were finally able to speak what's on them, their throat chakra opened up. And I felt like when GTAB launched, my throat chakra opened up and be like, I can finally be who I want to be. And so, yeah, rap. And currently I love listening to I don't know if you've been hearing the waves of the Egyptian rappers coming out from the Middle East, like Marwan Pablo, Wigs, MC Amin. I love also Omar Afandam, Mona Haydar.
Oh, I must look into it. I must look into that.
I can definitely send you a list.
Oh,
They're like,
do.
they're like, they're in between the underground and mainstream. They're like, I think in about a year or two, they're gonna blow up. Their stuff is also mixed, like it's Arabic rap with English rap. And so it's got like, I just love it. And like, if I would ever come out with an EP, that's essentially how I would do it. Like I do my fashion, it's mixing of cultures.
Yeah.
And that's what I would like. One day, like my biggest goal is to like put my creations on voice and rap and have an EP out.
That's amazing. Oh man, that sounds like seriously, you're doing such necessary work, such important work. Are your pieces like can the general public buy your pieces, or are they purely just for like the design aesthetic and just to tell your story, or do you actually sell pieces to the public?
They're usually just for artists to wear, my past pieces, unless someone like they DM me, like it just has this gut feeling, like they are my babies and they are, each one is like tells such an incredible story and so intentional that I only allow artists to wear them.
Oh, I love
or artists can use them for their music videos and stuff. But what I've done recently, because I know I'm like that's also not really sustainable to keep your designs, like because you're afraid for some reason there's a block there. So I created prints and on satin fabric, and these prints also tell exactly the story of what I was trying to tell with my pieces, but in accessible ways. So like you can wear them as scarves, as masks, as hoodies, kind of thing. Put it on your handbag, and they kind of, it's like little, I call them flags of stories. So they're like little flags, and they each tell a story, and they're kind of cheeky, tongue in cheek. And I think that is for the public. And also, my perfume that I'm going to be launching mid-December also is open to the public if they would like.
Wow, so you're launching a perfume as well.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, you're so amazing. That is awesome. So can you tell us a little bit about it? Obviously, because what this December you'll be launching it?
Yeah, I'm aiming mid-December, just before Christmas. It's called Alchemy. And it's also, again, it's inspired by my culture. It's got amber and it's got Palo Santo for my like Latin side, and it's mixed with rose. Essentially what I want to do is I want people to have access to natural essences and natural perfumes without the toxins in there.
Yeah.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole why, but like essentially have natural ways and like just unique scents, like really cool, unique scents. This is called the G Alchemy. It's inspired by Rumi poetry. It's inspired by energy cleansing and it's an energy cleansing in a new world. And like with that, I'm going to be like teaching people and launching people about toxic products and how creatives can really use these products to help them create really focused and intentional and like create like a little creative ritual. And that's the beginning of it.
That's great. And a lot goes into creating the perfume. So you would have been working on this for some time.
Yeah, I have been maybe since I'd say a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd say
I'm collaborating.
Yeah.
Because I'm collaborating also with another artist, my sister, and she's creating the marbleized artwork on the bottle. So like it's not just the inside, it's the outside. So kind of a holistic experience. I'm so excited for it.
That is amazing. So obviously you'll be promoting it across your social media pages and all of that, and then people can purchase it. Obviously they'll be able to purchase it off you directly, or have you got a little store, like a shop, sort of like an online store situation happening?
I don't have an online store or a website. It's all DM deals. Like it's so underground. It's like you like I think I attract the people that really know they want it, and then like how can we get it?
Yeah.
It's not really like not very salesy. Like it's
no,
like
I love that. It's
deal.
authentic, it's authentic, and that's what the world needs right now. You know, there's so much, like I said, that overconsumption, and especially with it being around Christmas, you know, whether you celebrate Christmas or you don't, you know, for the viewers, I often find that people tend to, there's just too much of a focus on expensive gifts and the size of the gift and the glitz and the glamour, and really it's not about that at all. You know, yeah, it's about, you know, for the kids, absolutely, but again, whether you celebrate or you don't, there's always a deeper meaning behind things. And I always find authentic gifts and or authentic pieces that are made with intention, that's a gift in itself, right? That literally is a gift in itself. So I'm so excited for you. I'm so, you know, at the risk of sounding old, I'm very proud of you too.
Thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you so much.
Because, you know, again, like I said, when I met you, you know, I don't think you were, well, emerging is probably the word I'll use, but I think as a creative, you've been doing this for some time. But then obviously once you decide to go out into the world with it, you know, you sort of emerge, and then here we are 2 years later after we've met, and you are really established as that artist, and obviously ever evolving, because that's artistry. It's ever evolving. So I'm so excited that we finally got to talk and just peel back a little bit of the layers of GTAB and the history of it and the future of it. Where do you see, or what do you see 2022 bringing you? Because we all thought 2021 was going to be the year. And it probably has been a little bit, but for a lot of us, it hasn't. So what are you hoping to achieve in 2022?
I definitely pray that GTAB gets recognized outside the streets of Western Sydney. I think it's really important that I break these walls, and I made, because like at the end of the day, what I'm trying to say is it's a story of struggle, and everyone kind of can resonate with that. So I'm really hoping that other people outside of Western Sydney start to see that, and I become more mainstream and not just this niche. I really hope that, and I hope that I finally, you know, put my head down and work on some music,
Yes.
and maybe like I have this unique vision, like it's like GTAB goes on tour, and it's just not just because of music, it's because of my fashion. We're touring my fashion, we're touring these amazing stories and giving people experiences and inspiring people to stand up and be like, you know, don't worry about the limits, there's no limits. Like even the sky, that's not a limit. Like you have something you want to share with the world, just do it and keep working at it and do it.
Absolutely. And you know what? As long as you keep thinking like that, hun, you know, the sky definitely isn't the limit. And I do believe that your brand, everything that you're building is going to be global. I think it's obviously just in universal time, and you've obviously got so much to create, and you're on such a definite path. Just stay on that path. You've gotten this far, and it's really exciting. I'm so excited for you. Like I even see certain things, I'm like, oh, but we'll talk about that off air. We ain't gonna tell the people what, you know, what's happening. You do it and then just deliver. That's how I like to operate. So yeah. I'm really excited for you, and I just, yeah, I'll be watching from the wings, man. You're incredible, and I love what you're doing. So congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You are so welcome, and it's been such a pleasure talking to you. I hope everybody that's been watching, you just totally inspired like I am, which is just incredible. Where can everybody, or you know, where can people sort of follow you online? What's your best contact?
I'm most active on Instagram. It's G__TAB. That's where I kind of put everything.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll make sure that I put all of that details in the description box below, and so people can follow you and listen to me. You definitely want to see some of those images. Sister is fine. Okay, I'm just gonna put out there. She's fine. She knows she's fine, and she's fine. And her photo, her fashion is amazing. Everything that she's doing is amazing. So thank you, my love, again, and continued blessings to you. It's just so exciting. I'm really excited. Thanks for your time tonight.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Maxine.
You're very welcome.